Today's online lesson will represent the information that is found in your book in Chapter 28, dealing with unemployment. So what I have here is a graph of the unemployment rate from 2006 to 2012. The unemployment rate is the percentage of people in our country who are actively pursuing a job that don't have a job. In other words, they are not working, but they want to work. So that percentage of people in our economy is represented on this graph from 2006 to 2012. You can see that the early 2000s, the unemployment rate was right around 4%. As the years progressed and we entered the later 2000s, you can see that the unemployment rate rose rapidly, especially from 2008 to 2009. The unemployment rate is one of those things we actually want to be lower than higher. So as this goes higher, this is not a good sign for our economy, and this was, of course, during the Great Recession that this occurred. From when unemployment reached its highest point to now, we can see that there's been a gradual decline. All right, so what we want to do here is we want to connect the unemployment rate to the business cycle, which we learned about a couple chapters ago when we talked about GDP. So what I mean by that is I want to be able to determine what point of the business cycle we were at each one of these points. So you can imagine that if unemployment and the unemployment rate was low, here around 4%, that's probably during a good time in the economy, and based on this fluctuation here from 2006 to 2012, we probably could argue that this was during a period of a peak. As the peak ends and we start to see unemployment rise, we know that we're in this period of a contraction. When unemployment reached its highest point in 2009, a little after the first quarter of 2009, we can say that at this point our economy is bottomed out. It's as bad as it's going to get. Well, you should know based on what you've learned in class that this is the trough. So from the trough until now, we've seen a slight decline in unemployment to where it stands today, just over 7%, even though this is 2012. But anyway, this slight decline in unemployment based on this graph is probably this period of recovery. And ultimately what we would hope is that we'd get into a period of expansion. So let's talk a little bit about unemployment. Our government doesn't define unemployment as just somebody that doesn't have a job. There's a specific definition. And there's a couple things we need to know about it first. First and foremost, we have to identify and define the labor force. Okay, so in our country, we say that the labor force is kind of like the pool of workers, complete pool of workers, those that either are working or could potentially be working and are looking for a job. In other words, the total number of workers plus those people that are unemployed. Now this number, this total amount of the labor force, is not going to be every single person that lives in this country. In order to qualify for the labor force, you have to be considered by the Bureau of Labor Statistics to be part of what we call the adult, non-institutionalized civilian population. Specifically, an adult is defined as anyone over the age of 16. Now I know it's a little different than your typical definition of an adult, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics defines it as someone over 16. Okay, so who else would qualify for the labor force? Someone that's not in the military. Notice that the definition, or this point, indicates that you must be a part of the civilian population. Well, civilian by nature is not in the military. Additionally, you must not be institutionalized. Therefore, people that are in jail or in prison are not considered part of this labor force. And finally, anyone that lives in a permanent institution, such as a nursing home, would be considered not part of the adult, non-institutionalized civilian labor force. So, again, who is not in the labor force? Well, little kids aren't in the labor force. Full-time students, those that aren't looking for a job, aren't considered part of the labor force. A stay-at-home mom or dad that isn't looking for a job would certainly not be part of the labor force. A retiree is not part of the labor force. They're not looking for a job, so they're not considered part of the labor force. Again, someone that's in jail would not be considered this, and someone that's in the military is also not considered part of the U.S. labor force. If we look at our government's definition of who is considered employed, they actually have a specific definition for this as well. Specifically, someone that's employed is, again, anyone that is over the age of 16 and is on some kind of a payroll in some type of a capacity. Here's a few examples of people that would be considered employed. First of all, anyone that is a full-time worker or a part-time worker is considered employed. Okay, so typically someone asks me in class, what about someone that owns a business that doesn't work for anyone? Are they also employed? Well, yeah, certainly. Even though they own their own business, they are part of the labor force. They are employed, and that, of course, counts towards the statistic. The government also considers anyone that works for a family business, even if they don't get paid, they are considered employed. And you might say, well, who in the world would work for free? Well, I can give you several examples of students that I've had over the years that worked for their families but didn't receive a paycheck because they were trying to assist their family in running a business and keeping their feet on the ground. All right, finally, anyone that is on a leave of absence but retains their job when they come back from that leave of absence, either from an illness or maternity leave, something of that nature, is still considered employed. All right, so we know who's employed. Now let's define who is unemployed. Okay, unemployed. Anyone that does not have a job, that would certainly be the first qualification. But not everyone that doesn't have a job is considered unemployed. In fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics has a specific definition. When they say unemployed, they are saying someone that doesn't have a job and is actively looking for a job, is actively seeking work. What is considered to be actively seeking work to the Bureau of Labor Statistics? 4 weeks. They must have been looking for work within the last 4 weeks. So, now you know who's employed. Anyone that is working and currently is on someone's payroll. Now you know who's unemployed. Anyone that's not working but is actively looking. Let's talk about the different types of unemployment. All right, so in front of me here I have 4 people, 4 different circumstances. Starting with the picture on the left, I have an individual, a young lady, who looks like she's packing up boxes for a move. Maybe she's moving across the country, maybe she's moving from one place to another in the same state. Either way, she's moving. Now let's say this person is moving from Miami to Brunswick. And she just is really excited about moving to the beautiful Golden Isles of Georgia. So she makes the trek from Miami to Brunswick and doesn't have a job lined up. Well, in her case, in this example, she would be moving from Miami to Brunswick without a job. What is causing her to be unemployed is this move. And this type of movement happens all the time in our economy. We refer to this example, this young lady who doesn't have a job because she's moved and is searching for a job, frictional unemployment. This type of unemployment is a reflection of movement in the economy that happens every day. Example number 2. I have a Santa Claus, and he has a job during the holidays. But after the holidays, his job's gone. And so he has to wait around till the next holidays to get his job back. Well, during that time period where he is not working, he is seasonally unemployed. What caused his job to be eliminated was that the season changed. So he doesn't have that job anymore. Example number 3. I have an individual, looks like from some time ago, carrying ice blocks from house to house. Well, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen anybody lately walking down the streets of Brunswick carrying ice blocks. And so we could surmise that this person's job is no longer really necessary because, well, I've got a refrigerator now to keep my food cold. Don't really need an ice block in the middle of my living room. So this guy's job is gone and has been gone for a long time. When the refrigerator was created, we don't have a need for this guy's job. It is gone. It's not coming back. We refer to this as structural unemployment. Finally, the picture on the right, we have an individual that is indicating by his shirt and the text on his shirt that he needs a job. Well, if we read his sign, it says the Great Recession or the Great Depression. And I think we can draw an assertion here that this person lost their job during the Great Recession of 2008-2009. So why does this person not have a job? Ultimately, this person does not have a job because there was a downturn in the economy that caused unemployment to rise. So when our economy experiences job loss as a result of downturns in the business cycle, we refer to this as cyclical unemployment. So these are the 4 types of unemployment. We'll follow up a little more in class on each one of these, but It is fundamental to understand why each of these people lost their jobs and what caused unemployment to rise. We'll pick it up in class, and you may proceed now to the online quiz.